Hello. I am here with the incredible maternity nurse, Gaye, and we are going to be chatting about how Gaye left the corporate world 12 years ago. So you left a really demanding job and then you pursued a career that you love, which is working with newborns. And it's been a journey. It's been a fascinating journey. And so I'm so excited to talk to you today. So thank you so much for being here. So how are you doing, Gaye?
I'm doing fine, and I love being here. So thank you very much for the opportunity to come along and to speak to everybody this morning.
Okay, well, that is great. I'm so happy that you are here because Gaye is actually really hard to get hold of because you are fully booked. You're all over the world. I mean, sometimes I talk to you when you're streaming in and talking to our new maternity nurses, and you could be in Barbados, you could be in Switzerland. So it's great to have you. So what I want to do first of all is start right at the beginning, and really the first question is, what made you want to pursue this career? Because it's quite different to the corporate world. So what made you go like, I'm out of corporate life and this is what I'm going to do?
Yes, it's very different. I mean, because I'd worked most of up until about 12 years ago, and I'd worked all over the world in various different corporate sectors, travel, conference, etc. And what I found was sort of 2009, 2010, there was the financial crisis, and the company I was working with at the time, I could see there were lots of changes, and I thought, I need to reinvent myself again. I need to do something that's good for me, that I can get just a change. So it was quite a challenge for several months. I had to weigh up all the pros and cons about the practicalities of changing a career. My sister is a nurse and a midwife, so I always loved the idea of newborn babies, but that was probably, it wasn't a very practical thing to do for me. And I always loved looking after my siblings, babies and children, small children. So I thought maybe I should look at something along this line. So I contacted an agency outside London.
Okay.
And I started working with a family that had a 6-month-old, and I stayed with them actually for a year. That was my first job, and I learned so much through the family and the developmental stages with the baby, and well, until he was actually a toddler. So it was wonderful, and I thought, yes, I really like this. So it was to progress. So I started doing a number of courses. And then I changed from working sort of as a long-term nanny in doing some temporary nannying, where a family might have just a need for a couple of weeks of some childcare, or their nanny needed to take a break or was on holiday for several weeks. So I would sort of step in and help. And then I thought, yes, I want to build on this. So it was very good as a basis for my experience. But then I came across a family that had premature twins, and they had a maternity nurse, but they needed some help to cover her day off. And that was my introduction to maternity nursing. And I thought this was the most wonderful job. I just built on that. So I did the maternity, the level 3 maternity nurse course. And then I started to build on that and do, breastfeeding course, postnatal depression course, and just read as much. And I started doing, just actually in the very beginning, while I was still nannying, I was just doing the odd sort of maybe a night with a family just for care, or weekend maternity nursing. And that's how I built up my experience and my references. So it was, what I did was, with every family I was with in the very beginning, it was interesting. The first 3 families I had were with the twins. So
the easy jobs,
the easy jobs. I was thrown in the deep end, and they were all sort of premature twins. But it was wonderful. It was an amazing experience, and I thought, this is it. This is where I want to be, and this is where I want to continue working. So it was, and then I just continued. I just built on that, and then I approached one of the big agencies in London So I sent in all my references and my work experience, which I had really in the grand scheme of things. I just had maybe, I think it was about 2 years. But I was offered a short-term maternity nurse job with, I think, an 8-week-old. And that was the start. That was the building block. And then it just went from there. So I worked through an agency for the first few jobs, which was wonderful. It just built up my experience and it built up my confidence, and it just developed from there. But of course, having come from the corporate world, I had known a number of families or a number of colleagues. So when they realized that I had changed profession and I was working as a maternity nurse supporting families with newborns, so I was referred to some new families through my old contacts, which I built on that as time went on. So now I work with one agency and some referrals, but it's developed over the years. I am quite now. At the beginning, I was building up experience and references. So a number of on once or twice that I came across a family that maybe we didn't have the same values, where one of the first questions after 24 hours, when will the baby be sleeping through the night?
Yeah.
So what I do now is, as I'm quite careful, so before even I've always had interviews with families. So now I ask very specific questions to ensure that the family's values are aligned with my values, because I have a very gentle approach. Yeah. And I always explain to families from the very beginning, even if I get an inquiry by WhatsApp or by email, I will write back and say, yes, would love to meet you. This is my approach. I have a very gentle approach. I'm very much into supporting families, and I would love to meet up with you. But I always, from the very beginning, tell them exactly where I'm coming from. And then at the interview stage, I tell them what I do on a day-to-day basis, teaching them and guiding them and supporting them. I'm very cautious about not sort of taking the baby from the mother. I like to teach the mother.
Okay. Oh, and on that note, let's break that down a little bit more, because I definitely want to go into the kind of the tactics or the, what the job really involves.
Yes.
But you've raised such a key point there about it's important to work in alignment with families. And actually, this is the same in any business, right? You want to ensure that you're working with the right clients, but even more so as a maternity nurse, because you work so closely.
It is, and it's very intense. I mean, you could be there for 2 weeks and it feels like 2 months, because it's 24 hours. I mean, you'll have 3 or 4 hour break, but it's very intense because you're with the mother all the time, and the mother will ask you, it can be a continuous conversation.
Okay.
So
sorry, I interrupted you there.
No, that's fine.
What I was going to lead to is looking at the role, the maternity nurse role.
Yes.
And what you do. Do you prefer to work days or nights or a mixture? What works for you, and kind of what worked at the beginning when you started out, and has that changed over the last 10, 12 years?
Yes. At the beginning, when I first started off, I was doing nights. Mainly nights, and then with one set of twins, it was just mainly during the day, where I would go in where the mother just needed a break, but she was fine. Herself and her husband were fine doing the nights. So it was a mixture in the very beginning. But now I think I'd say 95% of the time I do 24 hours.
Okay.
And I was doing 6 days a week, but now I try and cut it down to 5 days a week.
Right.
Just to give a little bit of extra break. Yeah.
And do you prefer to do that? Is there a reason that you do that? Or is that
I think it's more self-care. I think it's and it also depends. I mean, some families, they will want somebody for 3 or 4 months, which I was quite happy to do 6 days a week. But now I sort of find that in recent, particularly in the last year, where I've cut down to maybe I just work 5 days a week and maybe shorter term and then take longer breaks. But it really depends on a maternity nurse's personal situation as well, you know, their family, how they like to work. But I always ensure that I leave some time between each job. I think it's very important, your own self-care. And we do, you know, because when you're in this particular role, you're so totally dedicated to the family you're working with. And we are by nature, I think, maternity nurses, you're very empathetic.
Yeah.
And you're so involved and you're so giving to the families you're working with that sometimes you forget a little bit about your own self-care. So you need to sort of stand back, and when you're off, to remember to make sure you get enough rest and you eat well and plenty of fresh air. So as well. So I think that's the reason why I've sort of extended the time I take between each role now.
Okay, great. Yeah. And then when you're working with families, what does the average day look like? I mean, it must change between families, of course.
Oh, it does. But I usually sort of suggest that in the morning, say between 6 and 7, that I would get the baby. The baby might be awake already, but I would change the baby and take the baby to the mother to feed, whether she was breastfeeding or if she had expressed or bottle feeding. So, and I would usually sort of go and speak to her then about the night and tell her about, you know, how often the baby woke. And sometimes during the nights can be different. Sometimes I would bring a baby each time for a feed to the mother if she's breastfeeding during the night. And sometimes she will express and I will feed the baby and then take the baby in the morning. But so on an average, say around between 6 and 7. And then the mother will keep the baby maybe for 3 or 4 hours to let me have a rest, particularly in the very early days and weeks. I mean, babies, as we all know, they sleep more during the day than they do at night. So you don't get very much sleep in the first couple of weeks, or if you do, it's just 20 minutes here and there. And of course, you're always on alert, you know, you're very aware of when the baby is awake or when the baby is sleeping. So then I usually sort of go to sleep. Yeah. And if I'm with the family for longer and the baby is sleeping for longer stretches at night, then I might go back to bed for an hour and sleep, put my earplugs in, sleep, and then go out for a walk. And I try, one of the things as well, just for a little bit of self-care, is I always try and go out for a brisk walk, even if it's just around the block, wherever I am. But then when I come back on duty, then we agree at the time in the morning, you know, when I come back. So I take the baby and we chat about different things. And I always, from day one, I keep a diary for the mother. When the baby feeds, how long the baby feeds, when the baby sleeps, all the nappy changes, or anything that we might need to keep an eye on. You know, there's always babies that might have a little bit of jaundice. So just to keep an eye on the color, make sure that the baby is kept in daylight during the day. And we talk about routines, we talk about all the practical things. And then a mother might need help during the day, you know, with breastfeeding, or the baby will have fed very well in the morning and then the baby won't latch correctly. So we just try, and so I work with the mother, and it's all very gentle and it's very matter of fact and very what's the word,
intuitive.
Yes, you just see, and I'll see that the mother is struggling, and I'll say, you know, do you need some help here? So it's all very, I'm in the background. I'm in the background ready to help, but I let the mother sort of, you know, because I like to teach her and empower the mother. And I mean, I have had mothers saying to me, how do I hold my baby? How do I wind my baby? So and to me now, it's part of the course. I'm so used to all different types of babies and their behaviors and everything. So it's now with a mother, the first time holding a baby are not quite sure what to do. It's very important that you take a very gentle approach. You know, you've been through it, I've been through it, I've had to learn. My first job looking after a baby or picking up one of the twins, I was petrified.
Yeah.
You are.
Yeah, of course.
Even though I've held babies before, but this is sort of suddenly in a professional environment, and you know, you're looking after somebody else's baby and settling a baby, and you know, so all of these things. So you have to remember that this is completely new, and you have to be mindful of that and take a very gentle approach. And
Yeah,
yes,
I love that. And of course, sleep.
sleep is such a
Is
big thing. Sleep is a very big topic. So I talk through, of course, I've done a number of courses with Babyem on sleep, and particularly also the holistic sleep coaching course. So we talk about the biology of sleep, and I explain to new parents and mothers, you know, about what is normal sleep behavior and how to help their circadian rhythm develop, and what to do and how to settle a baby. And we discuss naps, what's normal, awake times, what is normal, you know, depending on the age. So what I often do, if I stay for 3 weeks or 6 weeks, we will talk, you know, every week, or actually sleep is a very big topic. So we're talking about it all the time. And even when I'm off, I come back, they will minute details about sleep and how to settle a baby. But I will usually sort of prepare them when I leave about what to expect. And we talk about the developmental milestones and what to expect. And so that they are armed, that they know, they are aware. And of course, some mothers won't have read anything about sleep, but they'll say, you know, my friend or my mother says this, or my sister has had this situation. And you have to explain that every baby, every newborn is born with their own temperament and their own little personality. And you have to sort of to learn, you know, how they are actually adapting to their world and their new world and their environment. So, and just to follow their cues, and just how to recognize these cues, you know, because some babies don't necessarily yawn, but you just know that they need to sleep because they've been awake for, you know, a certain length of time. So it's really just to talk them through this. And it's not sort of sitting down writing notes or anything. It's just as the day goes on, we just talk gently. Say, right, I think, you know, this little girl needs to go to sleep now. Just look how she's behaving. Or you know, a hungry baby, or a baby that's colicky or is windy, and how to win the baby. So we try various different scenarios, because one way of winding one baby will not suit another baby.
Yeah.
And yes. And then all about the developmental stages, we'll talk about tummy time and baby massage and all of these things as part of their daily routine. So I really strongly encourage the mother to do all of these things, you know, that she learns how to do these things. It's not just me doing them.
Yeah.
And of course, I get the dads involved too.
And how do you do that?
Well, I make suggestions that maybe that I speak to the mother, that maybe, you know, particularly because sometimes I find that fathers, they find that they're not quite sure. They love children, but when a baby arrives, particularly the firstborn, they don't know which end is up. And they and they're a little bit nervous. And it's just sort of to show them how to feed a baby and how to pace feed a baby, and you know, how to hold the baby and how to win the baby, and they love it.
I
But
love
again,
this.
it's really trying to encourage them. Speak to the mother first and say, you know, I always speak to the mom and say, listen, I think it would be very important that maybe, you know, your husband or your partner would, you know, say, oh yes, please, you know, I won't ask, we'll leave it to you. So they often leave it to me, and it's just, you know, just say, yeah, you know, would you be able to help me out here? I just need to feed the baby. Maybe you'd like to try. You know, there are various different ways. You have to judge the situation yourself. Some fathers are very eager, you know, can I feed the baby tonight? And some need a little bit of encouragement. So you have to judge the personality yourself when you're in their own homes. So
Great. And what I love about this, what I'm really hearing is that it's, as you said at the beginning, a constant conversation, and you're there, you're empowering them, you're gently guiding them.
Yes.
And you're like, it seems like a gentle presence around them.
Yes.
Giving them the tools. So when you leave, it's not like,
Yes.
oh my God, which is amazing.
Absolutely.
What I did wonder is that, do you work with families that kind of say, oh, thank God, Gaye, you're here. There's the
Yes,
baby.
I do. Yes, I've had that a number of times. And I've worked with a couple of families where the mother is just so overwhelmed. And you will find a lot of mothers that are very, I call them earth mothers. They're very hands-on. They just love every moment, and they would rather have the baby. They need me to sort of to guide them and teach them, and that's very much a role that I do a lot of the time. And then there are other mothers that really, they struggle. And it's not necessarily postnatal depression. It could be a bit of baby blues, but they're really overwhelmed. And I've had this actually with a mother with twins, just really, and it's trying to encourage them or trying to engage them. And if they don't, just let it be, and then they will gently come around. But I find, particularly in the first few weeks, you can have, even with a single child, or even a second child or a third child, where I've supported a family with the first and the second, and then the third child is very different. And you will find that, a mother might be more emotional. There might be something else. There might be, the baby may not be as well, or, there might be some issue with the baby. And, you just have to be very gentle and there to support them. And if they're not able to deal with the baby, for a couple of hours, or they want to go out, or they want to go back to bed, that's fine. You just have to go with the flow. Yeah, but if you do, of course, I have come across, fortunately not that often, but where a mother has had postnatal depression, where I would speak to her mother or to her husband, or I would signpost them, just raise a concern. It's the same with the baby. I've come across a baby that wasn't feeding correctly, even though there was no tongue tie, but there was something that wasn't quite right. And we discovered the baby had an allergy to cow's milk protein. And I learned a great deal from that. So I'm very aware of, when I go into a new family, if there are issues that, I'm not medically trained, so I would never diagnose anything, but I would make suggestions, or I would say, I think we need to take the baby to a doctor or a pediatrician, just to sort of, there's something that isn't quite right. And normally it's not very serious, but they take my advice on board. But again, it's also sort of very gentle, because I can make suggestions, and but that is one thing that you have to be careful about as well.
Yeah,
But
knowing,
you do have a gut feeling. You do know when there's something that isn't quite right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's so important. It's so important to know your role and know when you need to either get more help and support. It's not a downfall. In fact, it's a great thing. It's the thing we should know, is right when to go to a lactation consultant, a GP,
absolutely,
tongue tie specialist, whatever it is.
Yes.
It's key.
It is absolutely very important.
Great. And so you have been working nonstop for a very, very long time. So I would love to know what the future looks like for you, because I know you're going to slow down a bit more and perhaps create a program.
Yes.
What are you thinking longer term?
Well, I'm thinking that maybe I absolutely love what I do. I think I could never give up what I do 100%. And even at this stage of my life, I'll continue working as long as I possibly can. But I think maybe just on sort of maybe shorter roles. Maybe I had one client last year that I was just doing 3 days a week, and then 4 days a week, every second week. And that was lovely. It was very much a teaching role, and it was just perfect. So that I would love to continue if the opportunity arose, and then maybe also doing maybe online consultations, or even a course.
Yeah, great.
Yes, so that is my plan, and that's I'm in the process of looking at various different options. But I think still I would like to keep my hand into working on a one-to-one in-house, you know, with a family.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the reason why I ask that is that, you know, it shows it the role is flexible. So if you've got children, if life changes, you know, you don't just have to work 6 days a week and only nights. You know, there are families that want the shorter roles.
Oh, well, this is it. And this is perfect. I mean, and there are families out there that will just, you know, just for a few days a week, or even just doing days.
Yeah.
Just doing nights. It just so happens that I've worked on a 24-hour basis because it suited me better at the time. And because a lot of my work was overseas, it could be anywhere in Europe or in the US or South Africa. So it was perfect for me at the time. And of course, I got to travel as well, which was wonderful. Yeah. But I think now, I'm sort of, my priorities and my family life has changed a little bit. So I'm sort of looking at different options. But I will definitely, I just love what I do, and I love the teaching element and the guiding and sort of empowering new mothers. Yes, yeah.
Amazing. So for anyone here who's listening to this live or in the replay, who's interested in pursuing a career like this, I hope you found this helpful. We'll drop a link to our maternity nurse training course details, which is there to support people to go from, you know, wondering what it's all about to really understanding how to look after a newborn, and of course the parents. And our focus is always on being gentle, responsive, and it's about evidence-based practice. And in addition to the course, we support you longer term. So that is amazing. I'm so happy to talk to you. And to really round off, I wanted to ask you if there's, you know, for the people that are listening here who are new to maternity nursing, or they want to become a maternity nurse, like, what's the one bit of advice that you could give them?
I think the key is, no matter what job offer you get, that you have to make sure, whether you meet the family in advance or whether you speak to them on the phone, that you really need to ask, you know, what they're expecting from a maternity nurse and what their approach is. I mean, if you've got a gentle, responsive approach, you really do not want to sort of to join a family that says, you know, I want my baby sleeping through the night in 2 weeks' time, or, you know, I want a routine from day one. If that doesn't sit well with you, then you can always say no. And for me at the beginning, I thought I went into 1 or 2 families and I thought, you know, maybe I can change them. And then I thought, no, now I'm a lot more discerning. I will make sure that they have the same values that I have, so that we can work well together. It is a very intensive role. And so you need to make sure you're the right fit and they're the right fit for you as well. Yeah,
exactly. Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you again. So guys, I hope you found this useful. Let us know in the comments. If you have any questions for Gaye, do drop them below. But yeah, thank you so much. And I will speak to you, Emma, very soon. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.